Sometimes we only want to show content dependent on certain conditions, right? So for example, if a user is logged in, we might show an account button in the navbar somewhere. If not, we might show a login link instead. Another example would be the hiding and showing of a mobile menu. If a certain condition is true, then we show the menu. If not, then we hide it. So these are both examples of conditional rendering, really useful in lots of different cases. And in Vue, it's very, very simple to do. All we need to do is use a Vue directive called v-if. So say for example, I want to conditionally show the books on the screen. What I could do is come over here and cut this. I'm going to create a div and I'm going to nest that inside the div. Then I'm going to apply a v-if directive to this div and we set that equal to something. So Vue is going to look at this and it's going to evaluate whatever is inside the double quotes. If that evaluates as true, then we're going to show this. If it evaluates as false, then we won't show this. So let's set it equal to false first of all, save it, we don't see it. If I change this to true, then we do see it. So that's how we conditionally show something, by evaluating something inside a v-if directive. Now obviously we don't just want to pass true or false in here because that would be pointless. Instead what I want to do is pass in maybe a dynamic value. So I'm going to come to the component and you'll see that I stripped out the previous method we had, and what I'm going to do is create a new property. So I'll do that at the top, and this is called show books, and to begin with I'll set it to be true. Now what I want to do is say in here evaluate show books. So it's going to look at that property that we have and evaluate it. If it's true, it's going to show this. If it's false, it won't. So to begin with, we should see it. If I change this to false over here, then we shouldn't see it. Okay? So that's us conditionally showing the books on the screen. But what if I want to give the user the ability to toggle this value right here? So say for instance, they click on a button. Once they click it, it toggles this from true to false. If they click it again, it toggles it from false back to true. Well, let's try that. I'm going to come down here and create a button. And inside this button, I'm going to do a span tag. And inside the span, I'm going to say hide books, like so. The reason I'm creating a span tag is because we're going to also have another span tag down here later, which says show books, and conditionally show one of these two. So let's just keep it at hide books for now, but also attach a click event using the @ symbol to the button. And in here, I want to reference a function, which I'm going to call toggle show books. So now I need to create that function over here inside the methods property. So toggle show books, that's a function. And then inside here, I need to say this.show books is equal to false, for example, right? So if I save this now, what's going to happen is when we click on this, it's going to fire the toggle show books and it's going to set that property to false. And then hopefully, because that's false, this will evaluate to false and it won't show this. Hope that makes sense. So hide books, and now we don't see them. But if I click on this again, then we don't get those books back. So instead of setting this to false, what I'm going to do is set it to the opposite of whatever show books currently is. And that way we're just toggling it on and off. So to do that, I can say this.show books, like so, and that would set it equal to what it currently is. But then we can say set it to whatever it currently isn't, reverse it by using the exclamation in front of it. And now if this is true, it's going to reverse that because of this and turn it to false. If this is false, it's going to reverse that because of the exclamation and turn it into true. So now we're just toggling it from true to false and back and forth. If I save this, hide books, it goes, click it again, it appears, etc. Awesome. So as well as this, it makes no sense to have this text saying hide books when the second time around it actually shows them. So I want to toggle what we show here as well. So let me come down here and I'm going to say I want to show this if the value of show books is currently true, because then we want to hide them. So I'll say v-if is equal to show books. So if the books are currently showing, then we'll see this message right here. Now I'm going to create another one of these that says show books. but I only want this to appear if this is false. So I'm going to put a little exclamation mark in front of that to say only show this if it's false. Alternatively, you could say if show books is equal to false, like so. But I'm just going to use the exclamation mark, and now if show books is false, then this statement is true. So let me save it and preview. Hide books, show books, hide books, show books. So now we're conditionally showing the books, but also conditionally showing a different message inside the button dependent on the value of show books as well. If it's true, we show this message. If it's false, then we show this message. Now, another way of doing this is instead of v-if twice, we can use a v-else. So after a v-if, we can use an else clause, much like you can in JavaScript. So I could say v-else right here, and then inside here say show books. And we don't have to set this equal to anything. All we're saying is, look, if show books is true, show this element, else show this one, right? So we can directly place this after a v-if. So if I save this now, it's going to do exactly the same thing. Hide books, show books, all right? So that's pretty cool. Now, there's one other directive I want to show you, which allows us to conditionally show things on a screen, and that is vShow, and it does something very similar to show books. So I'm going to create a div right here that says currently showing books, right? Now, I'm going to use a directive this time called vShow, so not vIf, vShow. And again, it evaluates this, and if it's true, it shows. If it's false, it doesn't show. So I can pass in show books here. If that property is true, it's going to show this. If it's false, it's not going to. So if I save it, you can see currently showing books. If I toggle that value, it doesn't show now. Then it shows, then it doesn't. So this does what appears to be the same thing. But there is one subtle difference. When we use vIf, this actually takes it out of the DOM completely when this is false, and then inserts it when it's true. When we use vShow, it just uses CSS instead. So it says display block when it's true, and then display none when it's not true. So there is a difference in how Vue achieves this. So I can demo this by coming over here and inspecting this element, and look at this one right here. So you can see it has a style tag attached to it. If we click on hide books, then we see style display none, but the div is still actually there in the HTML. If we click it again, you can see that display none is taken away. Now, if we take a look at this by inspecting, then we hide the books, it actually removes it from the DOM completely. And then when we click this again, it injects it into the DOM as well. Now, generally speaking, adding and removing something from the DOM is more time consuming and expensive in terms of performance than hiding and showing using CSS. So if you had an element that could be hidden and shown a lot over and over, like drop-down content or links in a nav, I would probably use vShow. But if it's something that won't change very often, like if a user is currently logged in, then I would use vIf. But it's entirely up to you which one you use. Next up, we're going to dive back into events like the click event, but this time we're going to look at other mouse events as well.